In a world that's always racing forward, sometimes we need to slow down and reconnect.
Connect genuinely, broaden your perspective, and share your passion.
Bonafide dialogues, where authenticity, creativity, and passion merge.
Welcome to Bonafide Dialogues.
Thank you.
Becky Parker Geist is the founder and CEO of Pro Audio Voices, a Portland-based company serving clients internationally. They typically work with rights holders who have had some publishing success but may not be reaching their full potential. By producing, distributing, and marketing audiobooks and podcasts, they create exceptional audio experiences to reach more people while providing the tools and higher royalties rights holders deserve. In 2023, Pro Audio Voices launched AMPlify Audiobooks, the equitable audiobook platform, a game changer in the industry. AMPlify Audiobooks provides authors with the high royalties and control they deserve, but that other platforms fail to deliver. It also gives audiobook listeners a way to significantly increase their impact with their purchasing dollars and to connect with the creators. Becky has been serving as the president of Bay Area Independent Publishers Association for about 10 years. She hosts the podcast Audiobook Connection, Behind the Scenes with the Creative Teams, which has over 225 episodes. She's also authored 5 published books, the most recent being her first novel, The Left Turn, 2 Lives, Worlds Apart, first in the Split Universe series.
I wanted to know more about your background. I feel like I know you for so many years, but I don't really know much about your personal life.
Oh,
And
yeah.
if you feel comfortable talking about it, maybe you could talk about your childhood.
Yeah. My parents read to me a lot. I was the youngest of 4 children, and we grew up in a semi-rural environment on about 20 acres. We lived right next door to my grandparents, my dad's parents, so they were very much a part of my life as well. And they were also very big readers. So,
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Growing up in a big family.
Yeah.
Close to nature, close to your grandparents. I think it's the best way to grow up for children.
Yeah. I even remember when I was in grade school and up, grade school through middle school until my grandmother passed on. But I used to go over after school on every Friday and we'd play Scrabble together. So words, And I remember when I was in grade school, 4th grade specifically, I remember thinking, I want to be an author when I grow up. And,
interesting. So you knew it.
Yeah.
So early
in 3rd
in life.
grade. Yeah, 3rd grade, I wrote a chapter book that I was very excited about. And I wish I still had access to it, but I shared it with my English teacher in middle school, and he lost it. And it was the only copy I had. Oh, it's crushing.
I can't believe it.
It was my lesson in making copies of things.
It's a book. I don't know how you can lose something like this so special for your student.
Yeah.
But it happens. Yeah. Well, maybe you remember, the ideas, main characters. Maybe you can rewrite it at some point. Was it like a children's book?
It was, it was a children's story. It was these, I think I had a friend who had this like molding set. You can make these little like alien, molds out of this gummy like stuff, rubbery. And I think they were called Creeple People. And so my story was about this village basically of Creeple people who lived like gnomes underground, and it was just
very interesting.
It would have been fun to go back and read what I was writing, at that time in my life. But I did have a desire to be very much engaged in books, and from a very early age. I think stories are. I will often say I think stories, it's like we are stories. We
Yes.
experience our lives as a narrative, and the sharing of that narrative, that story of whether it's what we did today or something that we were thinking about, it's who we are. It's so foundational to our very existence that
Absolutely. And I think in business as well, I think successful business owners, they realize that storytelling is at the core of their business.
right.
If
Yeah.
you don't have a story behind your product or behind your company mission, then it's hard to be successful. You want people to be able to connect to you. And this is how we connect to each other, through those stories that
Right.
we can relate to, right?
Right. Yeah. I remember, I've done a lot of different business trainings over the years, and some of the early ones, I remember talking about how we need to connect to our why. Why are we choosing to do this particular business? And it almost always comes back to, if it's a business that is founded on any kind of passion, there's usually some emotional, powerful experience that we've had that has brought us to the place where we're doing this business. And that's certainly true in my case. Bay Area Independent Publishers Association already existed, and I discovered it in 2011. A friend of mine recommended it to me as a place to meet authors, because that's what I wanted to do, is get back into
But you're not the
audiobooks.
founder. For some
I'm
reason,
not the
I was
founder.
thinking that you're the founder.
No, I'm not the founder. I'm the president, but not the founder. But I am the founder of Pro Audio Voices, where we do audiobooks and podcasts. And that, I think, one of the really significant emotional experiences that I had specific to the audiobook world is that my dad, when he was in his 80s, started writing and publishing books. And he'd been a mechanical engineer all his life. And then when he retired, he started doing this writing. And as I was just getting into audiobooks, I had done a little bit early on in early 80s, but then I moved, and it was harder for a little while to do it. But then when I was coming back to it, he had written these books, and some of them were children's books, and I had offered to record them for him. He was excited about that. Well, then he got diagnosed with esophageal cancer, and he didn't have a lot longer to live. And I knew I have to record these as quickly as I can for him, and I did. And he lived on the other coast, so I didn't get to see him all the time. But my sister-in-law told me when she would play those recordings and he would hear his story in my words, I could picture it. She said he would just light up. And that means so much to me. I realized how powerful that is, both for him as the author hearing his words, but also in that particular case, it being my voice.
Oh, this is so special. What a beautiful story. Very inspiring.
Yeah, I love narrating. I love storytelling. It's how I came into the audio.
When did you start this company, Pro Audio Voices?
Yeah, I started it unofficially in 2011, and then officially, got my business license and all of that in 2013. And
because
so
I remember then your company worked on my book. It's been probably 10 years ago. It's been a while now.
It has, yeah. And we've grown a lot over those years. It's been really good. Really,
and
really
you
good.
have so many voiceover actors that you can choose from, right?
Yes, we have now over 500 narrators in the talent pool, and they're all around the world.
500?
Yeah.
Wow.
And they're all vetted, so it's not just anybody with a microphone. You have to be able to do a good job with both having your audio quality good, and then also being a good storyteller. It's such a rewarding experience to be able to work with a whole team of creative people, from the author, the narrator, the audio engineer, the some of the projects are directed. There's so much that goes into it. Just so rewarding because it's a wonderful collaborative process, and we focus on working with people who, like us, are passionate about the work that we do, who really care.
Could you tell us about the process? For example, if I wrote the book and I would like to reach out to you and ask you some questions about what the actual steps we need to take in order to produce an audiobook.
Yeah. The first thing we do, we always start with a phone call because we like to learn more about the goals of the author and what it is, that big picture of what we're trying to accomplish. And then once we are in a position where we're all agreed, yes, we're going to move forward with this, the process for us is we start with pre-production, and that involves casting and manuscript preparation. So casting involves working with the casting director and, identifying who is going to be the voice for the project or the voices for the project. We do many full cast or multi-voiced productions. And sometimes we have authors who are narrating. So that is also a part of that process if we're going in that direction. And then the manuscript preparation is, there's some interesting parts about it that I think I don't actually know of any other companies that treat pre-production the way we do, but we're looking for opportunities to help achieve the goals of the author that we've asked about early on, and to create the best listening experience, and then also to make everything clear, to guide decisions about things like front matter, back matter, might be about sound effects if it's a kid's book, or music selection, in any number of projects. Each project is so unique,
Exactly. I can only imagine if you have several voiceover actors involved with one book, that sounds very complex.
It is very complex. Yeah, and I'd love to talk a little more about that. I want to finish up to give sort of that overview of the process. So once pre-production is complete, then we go into the production process. That's where whoever is going to narrate or record engages in that. And then once that's complete, it goes to an audio engineer who will prepare it for review. When the author reviews, if there are some things that they would like different, or could be a word was mispronounced, or any number of little things, then those get corrected, fixed up, and once the files are approved for submission, then we move into distribution.
So do you review them personally when you're saying approved for submission?
That's the author would approve it for submission.
Okay.
Yeah, it's when they say, yes, it's just the way I want it, let's go with it. Yeah. And then it goes out to, pretty much every audiobook retailer, library, and then also onto AMPlify Audiobooks, which is the platform we developed for direct distribution.
Congratulations. That sounds exciting.
It's very exciting. It was a big deal for us.
You created your own app.
We haven't really chosen to pursue working with the big publishers because there's so much need for those who are indie published and the smaller publishers whose needs we understand really well. And we've built our systems and our programs and our whole, everything that we do has been really a way to sort of customized to wrap our arms around those who are in that world, that realm.
It's very, very interesting. So I think it's a big plus that you have this custom, personalized approach. I think it's amazing.
Yeah, it really honors both the author and each of their creative works because each one is different, and it feels really good to be the real people helping real people. You know what I mean?
And authors probably can be different, right? Some authors would be very much hands-on. I want it this way, I want it that way. Could you
Yeah.
please do this? Could you please change that? And some authors like, just do it. It's
Yeah.
good. I trust you 100%. I remember when your team worked on my book, there was just like one correction. I think it was about the car. I had an electric car, and you had a sound effect like like
Oh,
engine sound effect. And I said like, no, the electric
it's more
car
of a
doesn't
hum.
need that. Yeah, so that you're like, but we need to add some sound,
You're right.
And so we had this little discussion, but everything else
Yeah.
was just perfect.
Yeah. I guess that was before it was before I had an electric car.
Oh, yes, it's been a while.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, but what are the challenges when it comes to audiobook creation?
There are many. Some of them are, well, let's talk a little bit about, you were talking about how the authors know what their characters sound like. Sometimes one of the biggest challenges can be that an author has the voices in their heads for their characters are
Oh,
so fixed, like they're just so, they have to be just the way I hear them, that can actually be a problem because there's really no one that can, that can actually do the voices in anyone else's head, right?
that's true.
So what we have found is that those authors who are open and excited about taking their book to the next level and having like inviting that creative input, what a narrator, a director, what they're bringing to the project,
Yeah,
that's when it gets really, really exciting.
have that trust.
Mm-hmm. That's right. And
Trust
then
professionals. They know
that's
what
right.
they're doing. They have done so many of them. So,
Yeah, that's right. Let's see, other challenges. Sometimes accents can be a challenge, especially if a book has a lot of different accents and maybe only one narrator who's trying to do all the many different accents. So that can be especially challenging. And authors that sometimes will decide to change their text after they've heard it read.
oh,
That's
that's
a different
interesting. That
challenge.
was the question I actually wanted to ask you. Does it have to be exactly the same, your audiobook and your printed version?
No, they
Can
do
they
not have to be.
differ?
They can differ. Yeah, that's not a problem at all for them to differ. The only what I was bringing up as the challenge is if after it's already been recorded, which does happen, you hear your words and you go, oh, maybe I could
Yeah.
have said it differently and it would have flowed a little better.
Interesting. Then we read, it sounds one way, right? And then you hear it, it's like, no,
Yeah,
that's not the way you
yeah,
should say that phrase, for
yeah,
example. This is so
yeah,
interesting.
yeah. We will still make those changes. We do, charge a little extra if we've already
Yeah, of
recorded it and then you change the
course.
words on us. But we're and many other companies just wouldn't. They'd say, "Oh,
Yeah,
sorry, that's the manuscript you gave us. That's it.
done.
You're
Yeah.
done." But we are really focused on, trying to provide the experience, like a really great experience, start to finish. You know, so that's all part of it then. So we deal with all those different challenges. Sometimes deadlines are a challenge. We have a book launch and we're trying to meet a deadline, and
Mm.
if let's say an actor gets COVID or ill in some other way or in an accident or they have to move all of a sudden. We've had all of those things happen over the years, and we're
So
all
it's a
just
good advice. Just plan things ahead. If you have a book launch,
Yeah.
please reach
And I'm
out
well and yeah.
to Pro Audio Voices
That's right.
in advance.
Yeah.
Give them some time, some
Yeah.
room for some unexpected
Yeah, that's right.
events.
That's right. Yeah, because you never know what'll happen. Sometimes people come to us and they expect things with a very quick turnaround. And on occasion we can do it, but it really depends on
And the book, yeah,
the
complexity.
book and the details. Usually they're short books, and not too complicated to get done. So, but
If
it's
the
it's
author
vetted.
decided to read their own book,
Hmm.
what services would you provide for them and how would you support them?
Yeah, we have home studio consultants, so they would meet with the author on Zoom. And if so, this is assuming that the author wants to record in their own home. Okay. So they would meet with them and figure out which microphone audio setup to recommend. So there are a couple components to that. There's the microphone, the headphones, but then also the audio interface.
Mhm.
Usually just a USB mic that plugs right into your laptop is not going to give you good quality, not the quality we need for
For
an
audiobook.
audiobook. Yeah, because it's a higher standard. Um, so they do that, and then also talk with you about your space. Like what space are you going to record in? How can we soften up the sound? Good places to record are like walk-in closets with a whole bunch of clothes around you. All that, the soft goods
Interesting.
are very helpful. And then they'll also go through a process of checking your audio once you are set up to make sure if there are any adjustments on levels, anything like that need to happen.
You can actually lease a studio, right? And you probably
Yeah. Yeah.
can give
Sometimes,
some advice.
right. Sometimes we have authors, especially if their books are not very long, they'd rather just go to a professional studio and do it there. And
Yeah.
in that case, we will, find out exactly where they live so we can
Right.
locate a professional studio near them, and we'll connect with the studio, make sure that it seems like it'd be a good fit for the project, and then we provide our support in that way. So, yeah, it's kind of depends on what they need.
For example, if I wrote a book, should I read it myself, or is it better for me to work with a professional voiceover actor?
Yeah. I think there are a couple of different things to factor in. So, one is I usually want to know, first of all, if the author is really excited about and passionate about reading their own material, where, that's an indicator that that might be a good choice for them. If they're nervous or on the fence, they probably shouldn't do it.
Okay.
And the best reasons for recording your own, I think, are if you are like if your book is about maybe some coaching service that you offer, and so your
Mm,
voice is a part of what you want to introduce them to,
yeah, that
that's
makes
a
sense.
good valid reason for doing that. But, we've recorded with a professional narrator books that even fall into that category where the author's just like, I've got too much else going on and I just want to get this done. Sometimes what we'll do is we'll say, well, how about if we include your voice as like in the introduction, and then we'll take care of
Mm,
the rest. It's a good way to sort of cross, do sort of that bridge. So the author's voice is being introduced, but they don't really need to take all the time and effort and energy to record the body of the book. So that works out
yeah,
well.
there are so many questions. Uh, Like, do you choose a female voice or a male voice? Like, how do
Right.
you know? It's a very hard decision.
Yeah. Sometimes the book will kind of suggest a voice in that if your protagonist is a male or female, it's often good to go in that direction, with what the book is suggesting. Or it could be if there's a lot more, let's say it's heavy on female dialogue and
Mm,
light on male dialogue, you might want to go with a female narrator or, vice versa. Um, if it's very much like third person, middle of the road, could be either, then I would just say leave it open in the casting process and just listen for that storytelling quality that you're after. And that's how you'll know.
You will know, just you'll connect to specific voice in a special way.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that is very interesting. It's an exciting journey for every author. Now then we can self-publish our books and then you can create your own audiobook. I think it's great. And I wanted to ask you about the benefits of self-publishing.
Yes. So, it wasn't all that long ago, certainly within our lifetimes, that the publishing industry was controlled entirely by these big publishing companies, and they had their gatekeepers, and you had to have an agent to even get to talk with a gatekeeper. It was just really hard to get your book published. And yet, there were many people writing wonderful books, wonderful content, and the world needs wonderful content. We're hungry for it. We need it. It's transformative in our lives. So remember also that publishing companies, the big ones, they're very focused on what's going to be profitable. So that's not necessarily based on what does the world need right now. It's like, what's the world going to buy right now, right?
Yeah.
Now, with indie publishing having been like over the last decade, it has risen so much compared to traditional publishing that, especially to the big five, that I believe it has crossed over so that now there's more indie publishing. One of the important changes that happened in that process was self-publishing is what they used to call it, and still sometimes do, but that was, it was kind of looked down upon because of the way the industry was, if you're not in the, published by one of the big
Maybe you
publishers,
were rejected. People would assume that you were rejected by a traditional publisher, and now you're going this route.
Exactly. So it was looked down on that way. And there weren't a lot of ways for authors at that point to really get the tools and the skills that they needed to understand how to succeed in if they were going to publish on their own. But over these years, organizations like Bay Area Independent Publishers Association and Independent Book Publishers Association, which is the national organization for independent authors and publishers, have been so important in this process of helping authors develop the skills and to know what to do to make those indie published books just as good as the ones from the big publishers. So that was a huge, that has been a gradual and very important part of the development of the indie publishing world.
And I wanted to make it clear that people should not think if somebody self-published that they were rejected by a traditional publisher. Most likely they didn't even attempt to look for a traditional publisher. Because there are many benefits, right? You have more control over your book.
Exactly. Right.
For children's books, if you work with traditional publisher, they decide who will illustrate your book.
That's right.
I can't even imagine that somebody would decide for me how my characters would look.
Yeah.
I spend so many hours looking for specific artists, for specific style.
Yeah. Yes, it's so true. In a traditional publishing, you lose a lot of your control, like pretty much all of it, and not entirely, but almost, right? You lose control of the editing. You don't get to decide what your final words are going to be. You lose control of illustrations, especially with children's books, your book cover design. They decide all of those things. And because they're incurring the costs of acquiring your book and your manuscript, they're also taking a big chunk of each sale. So your royalties from each sale are going to be way lower than they are if you do indie publishing.
But they have very good system of distribution, so that's the benefit.
Right, right. And over the years, more and more systems have developed, platforms have developed to help indie authors succeed. And it's true that you also, with that control, you also then also have to take on the responsibility. So for marketing, especially, we think of, well, you can create a book, you can get, hire a professional editor and illustrator and cover designer and book layout and do all of that, and you can get it published, do it on your own as an independent author. And that's all great. But then you really have to market if you want anyone to find it.
Exactly. There's so many books. I remember then I was self-publishing one of my books. I published it and I couldn't find it myself. So how do you? I didn't expect anybody to find it. So
yeah.
So there are too many books. It's good and it's bad because, like you said, there's some authors that take it seriously and they will have a final product better than a traditional publisher. But there's still so many books that somebody just got inspired in the morning and published it in the evening,
Right.
And there are just too many books and it's hard to find. And I'm not sure how those algorithms work. But yeah, it's difficult to find, even if you go to this your specific category.
Yeah. Well, it's good to keep in mind, though. I mean, as a hopeful reminder is that many authors aren't doing any marketing. And so if you do some marketing, you're more likely, you're already ahead of that large group that aren't doing anything.
Yeah, I didn't have big goals at that point. I didn't want to be the bestseller. I wanted to be the best giver. I gave my books away to libraries and the schools in Ukraine. So yeah, it wasn't my goal. But I'm sure if somebody wants to take this serious approach, they definitely can reach their goals.
Yeah. And that's where organizations like BAIPA, BAIPA, Bay Area Independent Publishers Association, which is an affiliate organization to IBPA, Independent Publishers Association. Organizations like BAIPA can be so helpful to provide not only just professional support and networking and camaraderie and, building relationships with other authors and people in the industry, but just learning a lot. There's so much to learn. So many, it can be daunting, to try and figure it all out on your own. So having an organization that is providing a regular way to learn another thing that you'll need to know on your journey is, I think, really, really helpful. Yeah, we meet monthly, and it's every meeting is on Zoom. So we meet once a month, and then sometimes twice a month, as you say, sometimes on the third Saturday, we'll have a workshop of some kind, which is more of a focused, dig deep on some particular topic. And those are 2-hour workshops. On the first, in the general meetings, member meetings, we spend about 45 minutes doing Q&A, which is crowdsourced information, knowledge, experience, and then introductions, and then that presentation for 1 hour and 15 minutes at the end. And we do bring in some of the top industry professionals on a variety of topics, from marketing to production to distribution, audiobooks and ebooks, and just the works. Anything that, getting reviews, is all kinds of things that people want to know more about. The dues right now are $10 a month, so it's very affordable, for most people. And you don't have to join to attend. You can, come as a one-time guest, just pay a guest fee. But that's $20, so it makes more sense just to join,
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's a great organization.
It's a great
Very
organization.
nurturing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk a little bit about your app. I'm excited to
Okay.
hear more about it. Is it
Yeah.
new?
It is about just over a year old now. And we're already looking at what's our next leveling up with AMPlify Audiobooks, because it's just super exciting. But yeah, the whole app and platform came into existence really because for so many years I'd been working with authors and I get questions like, well, can I put it on sale? Or, why are my royalties so low?
Yeah.
And I knew that these were significant issues. It has always felt wrong to me. It still feels wrong to me that the retail platforms that are out there take most of each sale. And
That's true.
the fact is, though, that the author has done all the creative work. They've paid all the money to have the audiobook produced. And so how can it be right
It's not fair.
and just? It's not. And so that's always really bothered me. And I always wanted to
Have to do
find
something about it.
Exactly. I was determined, and we finally got to that place. And the other thing is, being able to put your book on sale or to offer discount codes that are not only 100% off. What if you want to do 20% off or 50% off? It's like you should
More
have that.
flexibility. Yeah.
Yeah, you should have those tools available to you. And so it was, and the other big thing is on any other retail platform, you're never going to know who bought your audiobook. It's, they're not going to give you that information because it's so valuable. And yet you should be able to have that, I think, because they're buying your audiobook. And isn't the world a better place when we can connect with each other, when we can support each other? So all of these are factored into and baked into what AMPlify Audiobooks is all about. It's really trying to be an equitable platform where your audiobook can be in the context of a store, and yet it's more like you own your own store on that platform. So you decide. You decide what you're going to sell it for. You decide if you want to put it on sale, if you want to give coupon codes, and you know who your customers are, just like any other store owner would. That way, when they buy your audio, you can reach out again. How did you enjoy the book?
Yeah.
Would you leave a review? What else would you like to know? There's so many. It's about
Getting
those
feedback, having this connection.
It's those relationships that we need and are so valuable to us as humans, and that we kind of get put behind a wall. All of that stuff is behind a wall in the general marketplace. So we're trying to create a community place where we can be real people together. And we're planning our next leveling up in 2025. We have some revenue to raise to make it possible, but we already have the beginnings of our team put together to take it to that next level. And you had asked about the app.
I actually like new apps because they're very simple, user-friendly.
Yeah.
For example, I remember using one app for fasting a couple of years ago, and it was a wonderful app. It was so simple, easy to use, helpful. I decided to use it a couple years later, and it got so complex and so difficult to use and just too much. Then they started to upgrade it, make it better, and then it just gets worse because it's just too much.
Yeah.
There's beauty in that simplicity. So it's good to have this goal to improve your app, but please keep it
Yeah.
user friendly.
Yes.
Same thing they're doing with the iPhones now. It used to be a good phone to use, but later, for example, with the photo camera, it's getting better and better every time, but now it's like a microscope. That's why so many editing apps are so popular, because people want to, they see in their pictures more than they can see in the mirror. Then it's too good, it's not good.
Yeah.
And they're updating it all the time. And I understand they have teams of engineers that need to do something, but at some point you have to say, we need to stop. It's good. Let's just maybe develop completely different product and focus on that. So I really love new apps because they're simple, user-friendly, and then, you have more resources, you involve more people, different opinions, and it gets so complex, so complicated. It's like, oh my God, that seems like too much.
Yeah, that's well
So
noted.
keep it simple.
Yeah. I will say, it was a real challenge being able to we knew that we needed an app because audiobooks are a complex product. They're not a single digital file. It's like an ebook is. It's not a physical thing like a print book is, right? It's this whole playlist and a cover image all sort of wrapped up together. So we knew we needed an app for a good user experience. And when we started, we had never developed an app. So that's, it was a little overwhelming, right? And we started off with two people that they were good at making promises, but then it seemed like we weren't too far in before they said, well, you can't really do this. And even though it was the basic thing, we just wanted a basic audiobook player. There was nothing super fancy that we were asking for, but it turned out, then we had found someone else that we could bring in, someone we knew we could trust, and found out that what they had created so far was just kind of a disaster. So we had to.
It's a part of the journey,
Oh my gosh.
Bumps on the road.
Yeah.
But in the end, you're doing something so special.
We made it happen through, I would say, like through sheer determination and the commitment of the people who have participated and been a part of it, because they really care about it. Care about the mission, of trying to make this happen for our authors and our listeners. So, I'm just incredibly grateful to all the people that have brought it into existence. And
what is it about your character that you're president of the Bay Area Independent Publisher Association? It's a huge organization. You have to plan so many things, week after week, months after months, and that's not enough right now. And then you have your Pro Audio Voices with 500 actors, and I don't know how many books you produce each year, but that's not enough. Right now you have this I'm not gonna ask what's next, but what is this fire in you? This is very interesting. I love seeing this,
Yeah. It is, I think, well, I love the creative process, and I just, it's what makes life worth living. It feels like, that, so because I love the work, and then I like for BAIPA, I love that community. Honestly, there are times when even at moments when maybe a couple of people are being a little prickly with each other or something, there's something, because each person is just this unique, wonderful human being doing their best with what they, and there are times it just brings tears to my eyes, because I feel so much love for this community of creators, people who are just so passionate about what they're doing, that they're showing up every month You know, they're being here, they're being together, they're learning from each other, they're sharing their own information. It's amazing. It's beautiful. And
it's not only about creative process.
yeah.
For you it's management, working with people, have things happen.
Yeah, it's true. And with Pro Audio Voices also, it's we've assembled such a wonderful, caring team. So it's that heart that just runs through, makes it all worthwhile. We we have moments, let's say, like, I mean, right now we have one of our main core people who just had this serious health situation come up, and so he's dealing with that. And everyone on the team, we're all just saying, how can we help? What can we do? How do we support you in this time? And that doesn't happen everywhere. It's a really special kind of community place to be. And again, we're spread all around the world. We're just we don't
true.
like I haven't even met him in person. Some of the team has, but but we see each other on Zoom all the time, and it's just so it's so great.
It's all about human connections, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
That's what life is about.
Yeah, really creating our own our story with excuse me, sort of creating our story with each other. Yeah.
True.
Story. Yeah.
And now AI can help us to create our stories, right? To write stories. So I wanted to ask you a couple of questions about AI, especially in the last year. There's so many authors are actively using AI tools to draft their books, maybe just a first draft, or maybe somebody just creating and publishing it, solely by using the app. So there are different roads you can take now. What do you think about it, just generally speaking?
Yeah, I think that AI has a place, but I think a lot of people are trying to use it in ways that are not appropriate. So, for example, in our industry, AI narration of audiobooks, I think that is not where AI belongs. I don't think it belongs in the booth. And for authors, I think AI can be a tool in the process. But if we're just asking AI, which is crowdsourcing everybody else's writing, it's not creating anything new. It's just pulling from what is already out there, right?
Yeah.
If we're asking AI to write books for us, that feels wrong to me.
I see.
I mean, I get
And
it, but it's
I like that you just mentioned that we need to talk about AI in writing and AI in audiobooks as well, right?
yeah. I feel like when it comes to AI, I mean, there are some really valuable places for AI, like taking massive amounts of research data and consolidating to look at patterns and results. And, what a perfect place for AI. Great. Do that. I know a lot of marketing companies are using AI in some very effective ways, hopefully ethical ways.
Of course, yes,
You know,
that's
but
extremely important.
it's definitely an area, and I would just say this, we've just been going through and looking again. Every year our shareholders and employees, we're the same shareholders and employees, we three women. We'll look at our core values and see if there's anything we want to update about those. And so one of the core values that we have identified that we last year, and we're just redefining it with different words this year, but is real people. We're authentic, real people. And here's, we are so, I'm going to go really big philosophical here, but we
I
are
love that. Yes.
so divided in so many ways, and um, it became especially apparent during the pandemic, and it's gotten only worse through the politics over the last several years. We're so divided. We really, really need the ways in which we can be real people with each other, the ways in which we can let down our barriers, be vulnerable with each other, just be gently and kindly honest with each other, truthful. These are so important just to being human. And it's so fundamental, foundational to what relationships can be built on. Strong relationships, good relationships are built on, and how community can grow. And it feels to me that AI is it just feels like it's being used in some ways that are not helping that, that are, it's so complicated. The whole issue is so complicated. Everything from, is it right to just have some computer go out and grab everyone else's work and throw it together in a different way and call it our own? Is it really our own? It's not really, unless, now I understand doing research with it. I understand, maybe even, doing some drafting of some kind, of some ideas, putting some ideas together, outlining, but it just feels like there's a lot of playing around with it right now that doesn't consider the larger picture. And in our industry, again, when AI takes over as narrating audiobooks, first of all, I don't think that it's up to any kind of appropriate standard, but I also think that it's taking away work from narrators.
Yeah.
Who are, usually already struggling to make that their living. And that doesn't feel right.
No.
Right. And there was an interesting turning point. It was when AI narration sort of came out of the closet. It was already being done in some places, but there was a point where Book Baby said, hey, we're going to do AI narration and we're going to save authors all this money. And because it costs so much to do an audiobook, right? And we were at that same point having our conversations about AMPlify Audiobooks because we looked at the same problem from a different perspective. So the same problem is it costs a lot to make an audiobook and it's hard to get a return on your investment, right? Well, here's why it's so hard to get a return on your investment is because Audible
Because you're taking so much.
is taking so much of it. So, it looked to me like, okay,
There are better solutions, yeah.
You're saying you're going to charge less for an audiobook and then, and then it's going to save you money. Okay. It looked to me like it was just another way for another company to grab a piece of the action. Whereas we took a different approach and was like, that formula of you not getting your fair share is really the problem. You should be able to get a return on your audiobook investment much more quickly, much more easily. But you're not given the tools. You don't know who bought your audiobook, and the royalties, just are ridiculously low. So let's turn those things around. And that's what we did with AMPlify Audiobooks.
That's great. And I think the human narrator, with all the imperfections, make it special. Because we don't want this perfect narration. It's you can connect to that. That's the beauty of human being is in our imperfections, right?
Yeah.
I think this is so special, where your voice breaks sometimes, where you feel, where you're tired. And I don't think it's possible to catch those nuances with AI
Yeah. And
generated voice.
I also think just on a, this is maybe a little on a more spiritual level, but I feel like there's just something sort of magical about when I'm recording an audiobook. I may be alone in my booth right now, but I'm talking to somebody who's in the future listening to this. And my voice is a vibration.
Oh.
And it's being captured, and then it's going into their ears through vibration. There's a physical thing that's going on there.
Yes.
And I feel like
feels like that, right?
When,
that voice is
when I am
nothing.
fully,
It's just a sound.
Right. And when I am fully present and giving the very best to this audiobook.
And you may be third or fourth try, redoing that little
right.
page,
then that
challenging page.
Right. And then that person in the future is getting the benefit. I think that they receive that feeling that I put into it.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's just my voice saying the words, not me as human being speaking to you as human being, I think there's something lost there. And I absolutely think there's, no matter how good it may get, how good it may sound, I think there's still going to be something lost. And I think that deep down, just on a subconscious level, even if we can't detect it on a conscious level, I think that we, if in some way, will notice that.
So subconscious, sense.
Fully. Yeah.
Sense.
I mean, it's like, would you like a robot to tell your kids their bedtime story? I wouldn't do that.
No.
It's like that to me. There's something lost if it's not the love in your voice. It's not there, right?
That's true. 100%.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about your books, because you're an author. You wrote 5 books.
I have, yeah. The one that I am, the very first one that I published, I did it before I knew anything at all about indie publishing. I was just, winging it. And it was also early on, a lot of systems weren't in place and stuff. So the one that I guess I would say maybe most proud of right now is the most recent one, my novel, The Left Turn, 2 Lives, Worlds Apart. It's a parallel universe story.
Oh, how interesting.
Yeah, it's about this couple that split off into these parallel versions of themselves and really experience different kinds of personal growth in that process.
How interesting.
It was a way of exploring this idea of what if we were able to just leave our baggage behind, and who could we then become if we could let go of that?
How interesting.
And I released it. Thank you. And I released it first on audio, on AMPlify Audiobooks, actually. It was, the platform was quite new then, and I was excited about launching it there first, and that went really well. So yeah, it's the first in a series, but I haven't written the next one yet. I'm still trying to figure out exactly which way to go with it, with the next one.
I think for authors that decide to use AI tools for writing their books, they're going to miss this part of the journey.
Yeah.
You write your book, where change your mind. There's so much going on in that process, right?
Yeah. Yeah. There's so much. I love that what you're
not
just
about
saying.
The final product. It's about your journey.
Right. Yes.
And
Very much about the journey. And
as an author,
right. It changes who we are, because we live through those experiences of, maybe it's wrestling with the words we want to use, and that that is a valuable wrestling match.
And there's
You know?
nobody else in the world that would write it exactly the way you did it.
Right.
That's so unique, so special to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is very
The
interesting. And there's so many people in the world I personally know that say that they've been working on the book for years, for decades, and they have it somewhere on the shelf. So this is, if you're the one of them and you're watching this this episode, this is a sign for you. Take that book, finish
Yep.
it. You know,
Yep.
you can contact Pro Audio Voices and have your audiobook done, but so many people write personal stories or fiction, nonfiction.
Yeah.
There are so many authors in the world that just quietly writing, and then you
Yeah.
start connect to people, and then they find out that you wrote and published a book. Then they start to open up and say, "Oh, I've been doing it too. I'm writing this story," and they start to talk about it, and you can see their eyes light up right away, and they
Yeah.
get so excited. And I
Mm-hmm.
think the self-publishing world now and all the tools we have make it possible for everyone.
Yeah.
Sometimes people want to write about their life story and have their children and grandchildren to read it later in life. Like, what a wonderful time we live in, right? If you can
Yes,
do
indeed.
it.
Yeah. It's so
Not
true.
just a personal journal, but
Right.
actual book.
Yeah.
Even if there's one person who read it and it could change their life,
That's right.
one person, one family member, three people, it's
Right.
worth it. It's worth your time.
It is.
It's
It
kind of
is.
a part of you.
Yeah. Yeah. And it will change you, that
Yeah.
the journey will change you certainly in good ways.
And your book sounds very interesting. I would like to listen to your book. And I wanted to ask you if there are any other books that actually changed your life or made a huge impact in your life, or maybe some books that you would like to recommend to our listeners.
There are several. I actually made a short list because
Oh,
I suspected you might ask this question. But yeah,
wonderful.
there are several books. I mean, I think in many ways, like almost every book I read changes me in some way, right? That impacts me in some way. But some definitely have stood out as being really significant to me. One is The Intention Experiment by Lynn McTaggart, which is a nonfiction book. And it really opened my eyes to a lot of what was happening in frontier science. I mean, for decades, it's like old frontier in a way now, but really opened my eyes in many ways to that, and changed the way that I view the world in some really cool ways. One of my favorite audiobooks that I've listened to multiple times is one by Jojo Moyes, 1+1. I just love her story, her characters, and her character development is so beautiful, and the way she puts together a story. Some that I would highly recommend that I have worked on and helped produce recently. One of them is Postcards to Hitler, a German Jew's defiance in a time of terror. And it's a full cast audiobook. It's on AMPlify Audiobooks, which I always encourage people to get it there. It's by Bruce Newberger, and it's shares the story of his family and community that leading up to and through the Holocaust. And one of the things that really was enlightening to me was that the community early on didn't recognize the real depth of the danger of what was coming.
Yeah.
And then it was like, it's, we've seen this before, it'll pass, and there's so many ways in which that audiobook over the last several months has made me very conscious of or not, just really reminding me again, it's not something that's out of my character, it's something that's very much in my character, is when I see something wrong, standing up against it, standing up with,
Yeah.
for what's right.
Yeah.
Another audiobook, also available on AMPlify Audiobooks, that I helped narrate, also nonfiction, is Take Back Your Life. It's written by Janja Lalich, and it's about cults. And the reason I think it's so important is because it helps us to recognize the red flags for when there's maybe somebody in our lives who is, being drawn into a cult situation, which can be terribly, terribly dangerous and detrimental. So it's really important information. And then I hope you don't mind if I just got a few. I got a few more on my list, but these are all like
No,
important
thank you
in
so
different
much
ways.
for sharing.
Yeah. Another one also I helped narrate, but very fun, very just loads of fun. It's called Pirates of Sausalito. It's by John Byrne Barry. Hysterically funny, and just
He
very
wrote
well
many
written.
books, right? I remember.
Yeah. He's
Remember
written,
him.
I think
Yeah.
this is his fourth. Fourth. I've read all of his books. I really enjoy them. And then for kids, your book I love, and
Thank you.
and there's also some others that are by Once Upon a Dance they're like a combination of dance, like story and dance kind of put together. And we did some interactive versions with live actors and green screen illustrations from the story. And
Because
it was,
actually can get very creative, right?
that was really, really fun to work on. And then just last one that I'm looking forward to, that we're in production right now and is releasing on Valentine's Day, and that is The Legend of Valentine. And
Aw.
it's a full cast production, and really well written. And I would not be at all surprised. I do think it's going to go to film, but it's starting as an audiobook. So pretty excited about that. That one's by Sheldon Collins.
That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing. I just realized that we have to be so selective about what we read.
Yeah.
There's so many books out there, and I bought a calendar last month. I don't know, have you seen those type of calendars? It's your life by week. So there's a
Okay.
dot for each week of your life. And so you have this calendar of those little dots. So I spent some time, coloring them in. It's kind of interesting experience because as you do this, you think about every week, every month, every year of your life. And then I was buying this calendar. I read reviews and people were saying, oh, it's very depressing because you think about how fast time goes by,
Yeah.
and there's not that many books we can read in our lifetime. Like you can't read everything you want to read.
True.
You can't take every trip you wanted to take. So you
Right.
actually need to be so selective about what you read, where you go. If you have relatives that live far away, you think, okay, in my lifetime, how many times I would be able to see them?
Right. Yeah.
There's so many things about. I'm looking at this calendar now. So I have this reminder in my office, in my studio. You don't need to start doing more and be more active. I think just living more intentionally and
Yeah.
be aware. We all know that we're all gonna die, right?
Right. Yeah.
This is just a fact we don't like to talk about. But having this calendar, I think it's about planning and being aware of your life, and like I said, about choices, because Choice is power.
Yes. My mentor, I work with Steve Napolitan as a mentor, and I think you've had him as a guest.
Yes, he's
Yes.
amazing
Yeah.
person.
One of the things he always advises is plan your fun first. Plan what's important to you in your life on your calendar first, and then fill in the rest around that. Don't just leave your, the things that really are matter to you in your life. Don't leave those as the things you'll squeeze into the extra time. Flip that around and do it the other way. It makes a huge difference, actually. Just, it's one little tweak that you can make and can make a big, big difference in how you experience your life.
That will make your life more beautiful, and you'll be more satisfied with your life. I wanted to ask you, what does kindness mean to you in your life?
I think kindness, I think of it as a kind of softening of the heart, a way of allowing ourselves to see others for who they are. Because I think that's where kindness most naturally springs from, is this kind of appreciation for another person and whatever it is that they're going through. And if they're going through a really hard time, then seeing that and being kind is so important. It can change a person's life. It can literally, sometimes just talking to someone or smiling at someone can be the one thing that they need in a very hard, time in their life. I know not from a story that I have heard personally as someone that I knew, but it's, a story that has come to me, is a woman who was in an elevator, taking coffee to whoever, her boss or whoever. And the other gentleman got in the elevator with her and asked how her day was. And, then like a week later, they saw each other again, and she said, I just wanted to tell you that that day, I had decided, I felt so invisible, I had decided I was going to end my life. And you speaking to me, seeing me, I felt like I didn't need to do that. And, so just knowing, I mean, we experience that all the time before out walking down the street, If you look up and smile at someone else, they will typically smile back. And you know what? You've just made a difference in someone's life. I know I feel that. Someone smiles at me, I just feel like, oh, yeah, life is good. So
wonderful. Well, that's a beautiful reminder.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your
Christina.
time. Thank you for sharing your experiences.
My pleasure.
I hope we'll do it again. And good luck with your new app and with all your companies.
Thank you so much.
And on the personal level. Thank you so much.